What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend Brian, who's down there today, discuss movies that have been made from comic books. And we also talk about streaming shows too. It is early on a Sunday morning for me, but I am super excited, super pumped, because I'm talking to my two very good friends here about the movie that seems to be on everyone's mind, right? It's the movie that we've been waiting a long time to discuss. Of course, we are talking about Superman 2025. So there's a lot to talk about, but I wanted to kick off with Brian, with you, and then Mike, you're next. Uh, if you could just say how you felt about this movie in general and like not go into spoilers yet, just kind of give like you're gonna tell anybody, like one of your coworkers on Monday, how you felt about this movie, you would say.
I said that I loved it, and it was the right kind of hope I needed for now.
Okay, nice, right to the point. I enjoy that. Mike, what would you say?
I'd say this is the Superman movie I've always wanted. It's
Okay.
the one I wanted Man of Steel to be. I definitely wanted Superman Returns to be. I for a while I thought maybe it couldn't happen. Maybe they just couldn't do it, and then they did it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice. Nice. I kind of was getting the vibe that you guys felt this way, and then our friends Danny and Chris. Well, Chris, I don't think he maybe saw it yesterday. Danny saw it and he thought it was like the best movie of 2025 so
I
far.
saw that. He was like, "I'm not even a Superman fan, but here we
Yeah.
go. I love it."
Right.
I I have to add that I saw it with my family yesterday, and my son is not a big Superman fan, but he immediately asked to go to Target to buy a Superman. So that says volumes to me.
Mission accomplished. Right. That's what they're actually trying to do. Right. Is sell Superman toys. So yeah. It's so funny, guys, because I saw it a second time yesterday. The first time I saw it, my friend Jay. We had this great discussion afterwards, and then yesterday I saw it with my mom and my daughter Clementine, and I feel like I liked the movie 6,000 times more seeing it a second time.
Hmm.
The first time I was like, oh, I gotta go on TikTok, I gotta do a live recording, and I gotta say exactly how I feel. And then seeing the movie a second time just like changed my perspective completely.
That's
I'm
really
So
honestly, I'm
good.
honestly kind of shocked that you had a not as positive reaction the first time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could go into that, but I don't want to bore everybody. I think that'll kind of just come out like in our discussion. But I
Mhm.
think before we even go into spoilers and start talking about details, let's just show our rankings. I'm guessing I know where it's going to fall for y'all. And then, like Brian, if you don't want to do yours too, that's all good. But I'm just going to kick it off real quick for me, and then how about Mike, and then Brian, if you want to do yours. Ready?
Sure.
So, out of the 9 movies where Superman is like an active character and it's live action, starting from Christopher Reeve, Superman in 1978. Here's my ranking going from least favorite to favorite. I got Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I got Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I got Justice League from 2017, not the Snyder cut, but I don't think that matters. We're talking theatrical releases. Then I got Superman 3 as number 6. Superman Returns is number 5.
Hmm.
Man of Steel 2013 is number 4. Superman 2 is number 3. Number 2 is Superman, the first one. And then this movie is my number 1. I would not have said that.
Whoa! Whoa!
I would not have said that if I hadn't seen the movie a second time yesterday. I probably would have put it underneath the first 2 Superman movies and maybe even Man of Steel. So
Wow. Wow. I'm shocked, sir. By I'm pretty much on board with you with a lot of that, but you shocked me there. All right,
oh,
so
well,
I
tell
want
us
to give,
yours.
as somebody with a master's degree in cinema studies, I want to give the caveat that I have not seen Superman and the Mole Men. I'm so sorry, I haven't done my due diligence. Um, I do. I'm gonna make time this week to watch it.
Okay.
Um, least to least to most. Dead Last is Batman versus Superman. Somehow they figured out a way to make that movie boring.
Right.
My next place is Man of Steel. Really hated that movie. Even while watching it, halfway through I was like, "Oh, I don't like this." Next place is Justice League. I haven't seen the Snyder cut. I'm just talking about the Joss Whedon one. It's a terrible movie, but there are things I like about it. I like that Joss Whedon made Superman more like the real Superman, made him happy, talk to children, smile. Used the John Williams theme, used the Danny Elfman Batman theme. There's some cool things in that movie, even though it's a bad movie.
Right.
Next place is Superman 3. After that is Superman 4. I have a soft spot in my heart for Superman 4. It's terrible, but at least it's earnest. It's about something.
Okay.
Next place is Superman Returns. Next place after that is Superman 2. Then Superman 2025. And then still in number one place, Superman 1978. One of my favorite all-time movies.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. It's kind of similar, but then also very different from mine. I think when I explain why I ranked mine the way I did, that'll explain everything. But we're gonna talk about that. Should Superman 1978 be number one or not? We're gonna talk about that in a couple minutes. Brian, did you want to do your
Yes,
ranking
yeah,
or?
absolutely, yeah. Mine is fairly similar to yours, Pete. And I have to add the caveat here that I have not watched some of these movies in 20 to 30 years.
Right.
Um,
Of course.
so at the bottom, I have Superman 4. Then I have Superman 3. I probably should put that higher. Really, the only thing I remember about it is the robot lady, which scared the shit out of me as a child.
Sure.
At 7, I have Justice League. At 6, I have Batman v Superman. At 5, I also have Superman Returns. At 4, I also have Man of Steel. And then at 3, I have Superman 1. So that's different from you, Pete. 2 is Superman 2. And then 1, I also have Superman 2025.
Wow.
Okay. Good. I'm glad that you guys knocked those rankings out. And I think the controversial part is, do you put Superman 1978 as number one, or do you put this? What do you do? Right. So I'm going to explain my point of view. I've said this to you guys a whole bunch of times, so you're like, oh god, here he goes again. But my criteria basically for ranking a movie is, does it have scenes where I'm excited when I know a scene is coming up? Like, oh, it's this scene, it's coming up. And the more a movie has that type of scene, the more I like it, right? Superman 1978 is similar to Tim Burton's Batman, where it's like almost every scene is this like iconic, great scene that you remember fondly from your childhood. However, for me, if you said to me right now, which movie would you want to watch right now? I'd rather watch this James Gunn version than the 1978 version.
Mm.
And that is by no means to like say that this movie is necessarily superior to it, because I don't think it's superior to maybe even a few entries on this list.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the movie that I want to watch the most out of all of them. And I don't think that's just because of recency bias. I think it's because it is very exciting to me and it's fun. I do want to eventually talk about why I didn't like it at first, but I want to hear what you guys think about why we should rank this higher or lower than the other two. So, Mike, why don't you tell us yours, because yours is different from me and Brian.
Yeah. I really like your criteria. So if I were to go by your criteria, I'd say that Superman the movie has those things. When I'm watching, I'm like, okay, here comes Brando giving his speech. Here comes Smallville when he runs past the train. Here comes Pa Kent dying. Here
Right.
comes Superman and Lois getting stuck up and him catching the bullet. All of that stuff. So by your measure, I would say Superman 1. I've seen it so many times. I absolutely love it. You and me actually covered it on my podcast PCMC like not that long ago.
Right.
To me, Superman, another way to put it would be that Superman the movie is a sort of foundational text in Superman. Like this
Yep.
movie, although it's an entirely own thing, uses John Williams themes, uses the credit sequence from Superman. It this movie takes and picks things from Superman's past that works. And one
Right.
of them is Superman the movie. So it's hard to, you know, the we kept saying charming when we talked about it on my podcast. It's infinitely charming. Not to say that this movie isn't charming, but Superman the
Right.
movie is just I don't know. It's one of my tops.
Hmm. Okay. It's funny because I kept eating pancake while you were talking, and I was enjoying what you're saying, and then I was like, "Oh shit, he's stopping now," and I have a mouthful of pancake. Um, Sorry, listeners. I go over my mom sometimes to record, and she always makes me a delicious breakfast while I'm recording.
Oh wow.
Um, okay. So I like what you just said, Mike, and it's like, oh, I want to get into it, but I want to hear Brian's part two, and then we're gonna bring us all together. So, Brian, why do you rank this as number one versus the other one?
I agree that the original is as iconic in almost every scene and classic. I do, but I kind of agree with what you implied, Pete, is that it it is sort of dated in a way. It hits the right marks, but I think, and I do feel I always do have an issue with recency bias. I really do.
Yeah.
But I think that, like you said, I would be more excited to rewatch this. I'm considering going again today, honestly. Um,
Right.
so I mean, not, and I've watched the 1978 one countless times in the past. So it's like it's a hard thing to do, but ultimately, yeah, I'm just very high on this movie right now, and it was, I did feel weird writing it at number one, but it just came out and it felt right, and I just didn't change it.
But Brian,
Okay.
you put Superman 2 above Superman 1, right?
I did, yeah. I just always I always like the Zod stories.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a second, right? So we are what 12 minutes in, and we got Mike on here now. Now Brian and I have read. This is not like, oh, look how big my dick is, my dorky dick, but like Brian and I have read like way more comics than you have, right, Mike? And that's just
Yes.
by nature, right? However, I would say that I think that you are a bigger Superman fan than both of us, right? And that's the interesting thing about Superman is, he came out in 1938. He's been around. There's 9 of these movies. There's tons and tons of animated movies. I feel like when it comes to Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, there might be a few other examples, but these three at least, the general public has ownership of these characters more than like people that are like so into comic books.
Yeah.
And I think that like with recent comic book movies, you've had a lot of characters where it's like primarily just people like me and Brian would like really enjoy them because like
Mm.
they're like deeper cut characters, right? But Superman is like the character, right? I mean, the only competitor he really has is Batman. And I'd say, Brian, that you and I are more Batman guys than Superman guys, right?
Yeah, yes, probably.
Yeah, ditto. Right. So it's interesting because once we get into this Superman discussion, like the public becomes so invested and so passionate that like it's like us talking about comic book stuff, but like people are like, oh, he shouldn't have trunks on. That's old. That's corny. Oh, he should have trunks. Oh, he's an immigrant. Oh my God, this is so woke. Like it becomes this like big fucking talking point,
Yeah.
and it's like it's so weird because it's like a comic book thing, and I feel almost like gatekeepery of like, oh well, me and Brian can appreciate him, but then it's like it's so much more than that because like Superman is like, if there's like a top 10 list of American things, I think
Yeah.
Superman
Yeah.
would be on that top 10, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I really want to add a comment here to you. You're saying that how the public owns this kind of character in a way, Superman, Batman, things like that. Especially with in 10ish years, they'll be public domain, and
Oh shit. Okay.
and they literally will be publicly owned in a way. So I think that's
Oh
an
my God.
important little fact to add into that comment.
Yeah. Well, but Brian, don't you gotta feel like when you talk to people about comic book stuff, a lot of times if it's like some obscure person, people will come up to you and be like, hey, do you know who this guy is? Or like, I've never seen this guy before. But then with Superman, everyone seems to have their own opinion on Superman.
Yeah, because there's been so many versions of it. Especially starting with that 1978 movie and the '89 Tim Burton Batman. Those were some of the formative um, things in my comic book journey.
Yeah.
That was my exposure to a lot of these things. And then there were TV shows. There were how many TV shows have there been? And then the animated series, of course, were really like the main driving force for me. But um, it's they are so exposed to the public that it's almost impossible to not know them.
Yes.
Superman has a
And
long history in media. I mean, the radio show was really, really popular. That's where Kryptonite comes from. That's where the character Perry White comes from. The TV show with Steve Reeves. Superman as not to say that you should like comics don't matter. They absolutely are the most paramount thing. But Superman has been adapted for a long, long time.
Mhm.
Yeah, many different ways.
Yeah, and continues to be. I actually see in this film a lot of my adventures with Superman, which is a very recent thing, and I think a really great thing. But I think James Gunn wouldn't even argue me on that. I think James Gunn was like, "What can I use that's all good?" And he just picked from everything.
Right. Right. So okay, so that both your points brings up something I wanted to ask you guys too, which is if you think of all the adaptations of Superman into different media, what is your favorite, or what do you think is like the best adaptation of Superman? So it could be an animated movie, a cartoon. Brian, do you got a quick answer for that one?
Well, you said favorite or best, and my first thought was All Star Superman, but I guess I can't say that because that's a comic.
Right, yeah, not a comic, an adaptation.
There
Oh
was an
man, I
animated
don't.
movie of it, isn't there?
What?
There is an animated movie of
There's
that,
an
yes.
animated All Star
Yeah,
Superman movie.
yeah, but I don't. I don't know if that did it for me.
Right.
I'm man. I'm gonna go with the animated Justice League Superman.
Yep. Okay. See, it's so funny, Mike, is that you come on our show and it's like me and Brian are pretty much like the same mind. So I'm like, that's what I would say too. Yeah, there's something about it. It probably is because this happened in our, formative years. But
Yeah.
like Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, and that Justice League show, it's like that's kind of how we see Superman and Batman. You know? What about you, Mike?
I see a lot of Superman the animated series in this film too.
Yeah.
Superman the animated series depowered him a lot, right? And
Hmm.
that was one of their big broad, genius strokes. And I think you see that in this. Him, getting his ass kicked. When you say outside of the movies, you mean like the character Superman or just an adaptation outside of the movies?
No,
Um,
movies can count. I just think not a comic book really is the question, right?
Yeah, right. A non-comic book version of Superman. Yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh, maybe there's recency bias, but I'd say My Adventures with Superman.
Okay, okay. So it's kind of interesting that we say all animated, and then what's another interesting thing is I know that some of the reviews that people have said is that this movie is the closest thing to a Superman the animated series adaptation, where it like feels
Yeah.
like that, right? So this is what I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna talk for 1 second that kind of long, and then I'll shut up, and then I'm gonna toss the ball to you guys. But let me just talk about why I didn't like it at first,
Sure.
and then I'm gonna be real brief and try to get to the point too. But on first viewing, I thought this movie was like way too packed with stuff. I was like, there's so much going on. I'm sort of like confused at this point, and I felt like there weren't a lot of sequences where you felt that wonder of Superman or like that kind of excitement about Superman himself, right? Um, One thing I was going to get all pretentious and say is that, like, with filmmaking, there isn't a rule to evoke emotion. Like, I was going to say at first that, like, oh, well, maybe you need to draw out a shot or like do something in slow motion or like not have dialogue for you to have an emotional impact. But I think that's a stupid rule that I came up with, because I think that like anyone can convey an emotion or make something effective if they do it the right way. And like I think that there are characters that like have very little screen time in movies, for example, that can have a tremendous impact, and that's all you think about from a movie, like Heath Ledger's Joker, or you know, Hannibal Lecter, right? And so I thought that this movie, though, it didn't have that like emotional beats where I was like, oh, I feel that wonder of Superman, or oh, I feel this, I care about Superman, or I care about Lois Lane. And then, dude, the second time I saw the fucking movie, it was completely flipped. You know?
Mm.
And so my last thing, and then I'm going to shut up. I want to hear what you guys think. But I kept thinking about how, like, in Man of Steel, and that sounds sacrilegious. And then the, you know, Superman 1 and 2, and even Superman Returns, there's a lot of sequences where there isn't really necessarily dialogue, but the music is so important, and so like you feel it because of John Williams' score or Hans Zimmer's score,
Mm.
where it hits that emotional beat. Like my example I always use, and then I'm going to shut up, is in Superman Returns. There's this one scene where Lois Lane and her cuck boyfriend and Superman's bastard child are on this boat, and it's sinking, and you think they're going to die, and you just kind of watch them like almost drown in this boat. Then you see Superman's boots on the glass of the boat, like the window, and you hear the John Williams score, and he slowly picks the boat out of the water, and it's just like this like, oh, you get these chills, and I was like, there's nothing like this in this James Gunn movie. And then I watched the James Gunn movie again. I'm like, you know what? There is nothing like that, but that's okay because there's something else.
Well, I think it goes down to like, do you want to see Superman as a god or as a person? And
Oh, yeah.
and uh look, I understand what you're saying, because my favorite Superman is Superman the movie, which has a ton of that that insane reverence. But look at if there's a flaw in Superman Returns, their fatal flaw is relying too much on that reverence, right?
Yep.
You
Mm-hmm.
have a movie that has a very sort of thin narrative with like a ton of this like reverence, and it didn't really sell. I mean, it was a successful movie. We just think of it not as, but
Right.
it didn't really strike the way this movie doesn't have a ton of that reverence. It has a little bit. You have the John Williams theme immediately, I think, has a emotional connection to us.
Right.
Um, and his parents and stuff like that. But he is human. I mean, to me, the moment that stands out as like the thesis is, and I guess this is spoilery, when he speaks to when he confronts Luthor at the end, and he says, what you're wrong about me in thinking that I'm not human. I am human. I make mistakes all the time. That's what makes me powerful.
Yes.
That was
Yeah. I mean,
for me. Just to
that was the highlight of the movie. That part.
that particular speech was the moment of the movie for me.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
Like, yeah,
You know.
you got it, James Gunn.
Yeah.
And it's also so and I don't by this culture war between James Gunn and Zack Snyder, I think is stupid. I think that it's dumb. I think that, first of all, they're friends, right? They were both on Rick and Morty recently.
Yeah,
like,
I was just gonna say Rick and Morty.
yeah, like they're not against each other. They just have different takes on the character. But that's what you see in that sequence is almost, I don't think purposefully, but a little bit of a refutation on what happens in Man of Steel, which is he's just a god.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, so that's kind of where I was going with all this too. And Mike, you bring up some great points too, that you kind of like, you can shine a light on things that I just kind of scurry around. But basically, Superman in the comics, especially like if we're going back to like the 80s or 90s, or especially the Silver Age, Superman is like really smart as well. He's like, like almost like a Batman level intelligence. Uh, they kind of lean more into brute strength in modern day comics, and then in like adaptations. I think that if we were going to rank Supermans in the movies based on their intelligence, this Superman would actually be like the lowest, I think. Like I think the
Yeah.
Christopher Reeve one is probably the highest, and then the Brandon Routh one is the Christopher Reeve one.
Yeah.
And then Henry Cavill I think is maybe smarter than this one. However, he has no emotional intelligence whatsoever. He's a cold alien god. Um, but this Superman, holy shit, does he? They like with the Christopher Reeve Superman, they make him the guy who literally saves a cat from a tree. But in this, he's like
He
concerned
saves a
about.
squirrel. He does save
Well,
a squirrel.
True.
yes, he saves a squirrel. No, it's a good point. And I like the second time I saw it, I was like, oh shit, I got to remember the squirrel this time. Um, but like,
That was my
um,
second favorite moment in the movie.
no. Okay. No, you guys, you want to hear something funny? My favorite part of the movie the first time was actually when Mr. Terrific took out all those people on the beach using his T-spheres.
That's great. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
okay,
can't
so
believe talking about the side characters in this movie. Yes.
okay. There's so much to fucking talk about, and I feel like I have ADHD explaining all this, but um, like, goddamn, what the first time I watched it when I had complaints and stuff, I was like, James Gunn is so good with his mic drop moments. I almost feel like that's his like signature thing, where it's like, okay, the movie's gonna stop, we're gonna do like a little music video, and that's what's gonna get everyone right. And maybe there's an animal involved, and I
Oh,
felt like he didn't do that with this movie as much. There's maybe like two or three musical moments, maybe just two, I think, in the whole fucking movie, where it's like not a score but an actual like song.
mhm.
Yeah, that part, the part with the T Spears, yes, with Lois on the beach, the actual end of it, and man, there was something else I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there's just the part on the beach, and then the part where it's like, I'm a punk rocker, yes I am, and that's the very end of the movie. I can't think of another sequence,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely right. Yeah,
But then, like seeing it a second time, I was like, I don't give a shit that there isn't these mic drop moments at all. It's just like I enjoy every scene for the most part. There doesn't feel like a filler scene. And goddamn, I'm talking a lot today. I apologize. But what I want to do is I want to ask both you guys, what about that fucking scene where Lois interviews Superman, and it's just the two of them talking for like 10 minutes or more.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do y'all think of
I
that?
I love that scene. I loved that was that that solidified that as one of the best Loises, I think. That scene
Hmm.
there, the way she probed him and was how inquisitive she was and how she was kind of teaching him what and giving him an opposite side of what he did. I love that scene. I thought Rachel Brosnahan was fantastic as Lois. I don't know where I rank her in terms of Lois's. I didn't really think about it, but I did love her as Lois.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to address exactly what you said, but I want to hear Mike's take too.
Well, a few things. Well, one is I too, when I saw the trailer, I was worried it was gonna be overstuffed, which is something that happens with films now. A great example would be the last Ghostbusters movie. There's like way too much. There's 9,000 speaking characters, and there's all these little cul-de-sacs that are trying to set up other things. And I was afraid
Right.
that that's what this movie's gonna be, but it isn't. This movie, I think, is really well paced. It's not too long. Um, with the exception of maybe like the spoiler cameo from Supergirl, everything, all the characters in it, like Mr. Terrific, they all aren't just there as cameos. They actually do something. They're part of the narrative.
Right.
Anyway, and I thought, some negative reviews said that the movie just is too fast paced. There's no breath, and I think a scene like this shows that that's not true. This movie actually has a very good pace and has a lot of quiet moments. I like
Mm.
I like a Lois who's smarter than Superman, or at least can challenge him. I think that's a good part of their dynamic. Whenever you see it in any different version, um, I know Peter, you were worried before the movie came out about like the politics of it. Maybe it's too big, and some critics are saying that the politics are too muddled. I don't think they're muddled. I just think that they
Yeah.
might be saying something that you don't want them to say. But I think the
Right.
politics are very simple.
Right.
Um, and It's a beautiful scene. I mean, it shows who they are. It shows their connection. They have chemistry. Imagine such a thing. The actor who plays Superman and Lois actually having chemistry with each other. Um,
Yes.
I think that scene's great. Going back to the lesson you were saying, sometimes Superman is Clark, sometimes Clark is Superman, depending on the depiction and how you do it. In this movie, Clark is who he is. He's really
Right.
Clark. And
Right.
when he puts on the Superman outfit, he's just, trying to be something. He's trying to
Right.
do his best.
Right. Well, okay, so that is so interesting unto itself, right? Because I'd say that the Henry Cavill Superman is like Kal-El, basically. He's like the
Yes.
Kryptonian god, and he's absolutely Clark in this movie. Like one of the first lines of dialogue we have with him is when he gets healed. And we'll say at this point we are in spoiler territory. If you haven't seen the movie, stop this review. But he gets healed from the sunlight in the Fortress of Solitude, and then he notices that like the Fortress of Solitude has been messed up a little bit because of crypto, and he says, "What the hey, dude?" And I kind of was like, "Oh, okay, this is going to be
Yeah.
kind of like a cornball in this movie,"
Right.
but it works. Like one of the things that I use as a
That's the
criticism, the
most
first,
punk rock.
right,
Let's
right,
just
right,
say
right,
it. Maybe that's punk rock.
right. And I don't know necessarily if that message lands completely. I know the sentiment behind it, but I don't know if it lands. What I was going to say though is that this movie, I was worried about it just almost being like it's just responses to what people say about other Superman media. Like we're just responding to this. Like we take a moment to really show that Metropolis is being evacuated before the final battle to be like, well, it's
Oh,
not Man
yeah.
of Steel, right?
Right.
And we have this chemistry between Superman and Lois because the chemistry between Superman and Lois is so bad in the Man of Steel universe, right? But to go back to the Lois and Clark interview scene, like other versions of Lois Lane, it's like she's always tough as nails and quick witted, and she seems like she's such a tough. Oh, I'm such a hard working female reporter. But then once Superman comes in, she's like, my hero. She's like fawning over him, and she can't remember what she's saying. And I think that by establishing that the movie is 3 years into Superman being around, they
Mhm.
know each other as that he's Superman. Like she doesn't fawn for him or anything like that in this movie. They're like total equals,
Yeah.
even though he has the power of a god. They're like equal like teammates in this movie versus other versions.
I feel like there are other versions that have done similar relationship styles like that. Like I think the animated Superman series was very like that. I would argue Smallville maybe even too. I
Mhm.
love Erica Durance's Lois from Smallville. As much as I had problems with that show, but I don't think this movie is alone in that.
No, yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. And I actually haven't seen any Smallville, so I can't bring that into the discussion. But what I was going to say though is that they also make a choice as to when people meet Superman or how they meet Superman, right? This movie has a fucking opening crawl, which I was not expecting, where it's
Mhm.
like 300 years ago, we discover or metahumans make an appearance on Earth. 30 years ago, this baby comes from Krypton, right? I feel like that really establishes this world and how people feel about Superman. What did you guys think about that opening crawl and this setup?
Yeah, as we've gone through so many iterations and so many reboots and so many different continuities, I love that they just kind of set it up and just threw us right in the middle of everything. I really appreciate it. I don't need to see the rocket landing in Smallville anymore. I appreciate those choices moving forward as we see more and more iterations of these characters.
Right. Um, Mike, what about you?
Uh, I loved it. I for the first, I was already like tearing up in the very beginning. It begins with the DC logo, which is
I literally did tear up the second we saw the logo and you hear the first note of John Williams' score.
yeah. It's
I
like
teared
all
up.
right, all right, and then um, I agree with Brian. I could go the rest of my life and not see the origin again, and I think our cultural consciousness doesn't need it. In some ways, it's not at all similar, But in some ways, this movie reminded me of um, Homecoming, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it was like, okay, we're not gonna give you an origin. We know that you know the character and what the character should act like. We're gonna give you that. We're gonna give you an
Yeah.
adventure with this character. Um, I like it. I like setting it up. It sets up the whole DCU very, very succinctly. You know, there are other metahumans. He's been Superman for a while. We don't have to go through. Lois doesn't know that he's Superman. She knows he's Superman. They're dating. You know, I thought the beginning was really good. Just throw us right into the action.
Yeah, I felt it was very refreshing that they had just started dating and they didn't have to go through the whole I don't know he's Clark and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
I found it really interesting before you said that he is Clark the entire movie, and I didn't really think about that because I was mostly thinking it how little of actual Clark Kent was in this movie. But
Right.
you're really right that he was Clark the entire time. You're 100% right, and I think that was a really nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, one thing, and God, I sound like a fucking broken record here, but like one thing that was a criticism for me the first time around is I was bothered with how non-phased people were in Metropolis by like the craziness going around, and I kind of was still bothered by that a little bit the second time around because I mean, there's one part when that kaiju is attacking, and there's a guy in a store and he's like eating cereal, and like the kaiju's like right outside his fucking window and he just kind of is like, oh, and he just keeps eating the cereal. Like it's goofy, and that actually probably would be in like the not Richard Donner Superman 2, but the other guy, Superman 2, right? Um right. So I was like, I felt like you need the people of Metropolis to be like scared for their lives or to think that this is amazing so that you as an audience member can like connect and feel that wonder, right? If they're sort of like, oh, whatever, it's a kaiju, like it doesn't have that kind of excitement. Um, but I think that I can kind of overlook that for the second part. Uh, I'm jumping all over the place, but I really want to talk about this one part that's so important to me. The part with Jimmy Olsen and Miss how's Tessmacher?
Tessmacher.
Right. Like that's another example. Like I think her taking all these selfies, you're like, oh, this is like a little over the top. It's silly that she'd be like in Lex Luthor's headquarters taking selfies. Like it just makes it like not as exciting because it's just kind of like, oh, who cares? I'm just taking pictures, right? But then the fact that they weave that selfie taking into the plot, and then have this whole like Jimmy Olsen subplot with her.
Yeah.
I like that so much better the second time around. What did you guys think of that and other little ancillary scenes?
I enjoyed that a lot. I did feel that was one of the things that I felt was I might have needed a little more explanation on their past relationship or how or why that I felt a little underwater with that when that started. I guess I was also really debating internally is if that was all coincidence or there was some purpose behind the selfies, like if she was doing within some intent.
Right.
But I was kind of waiting for them to like reveal that she wasn't as dumb as they made her seem. But they left it very ambiguous. Well, maybe it wasn't ambiguous. She really was just dumb to me. But I liked it.
Okay. Yeah. Mike, what'd you think? What'd you think?
Well, I think that there's no fat on the bone here. Every scene is necessary. Nothing feels out of place. Um, Jimmy is there for a narrative reason. It makes sense. I also gotta say I like that she's Miss Tessmacher. I like that there's an Otis. I like all the little references to the '78 movie.
Right. No, I mean like okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's
No,
a
say
weird
your point.
subplot that Jimmy Olsen is like a ladies' man, which is kind of just thrown right in there and kind of weird. But just buying that, you just gotta buy into that. It's just a weird. I guess it's playing on the character how he's usually depicted.
Yes.
Yeah, and also like I didn't mention it before. I forgot for a second, but the whole mutant toes thing. Like I feel like I needed like a little more background on that. It's just such an interesting thing because you don't see Jimmy Olsen like that in most iterations, and then he's kind of competing with this multi-billionaire playboy kind of person. And I just wanted to know more about how and why and all that.
Yes, and Quentin Tarantino was like, I actually want to see that too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
make sure we see it on screen, right? Now, her shrimp cocktail toes. It's so funny because, like, when you start to do research into this movie, there's all these weird details that you didn't even know about. I was looking this up, and like the actor that plays Perry White, like his motivation or what he was thinking was that Lex Luthor might have had an affair with Perry White's wife, and that one of his children might even be one of Perry White or Lex Luthor's kids. I was like, what the fuck? That is so weird and out of left place or left field. Another thing is James Gunn was saying that Superman is around 25, but then when you watch an opening crawl, it's like they establish that he's like 30 years old, right? Because they say that like the ship crash lands when he's 30.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Tessmacher and Jimmy is that like it's just like you said, Mike, where it serves this story, it fits, right? Um, it's interesting because like there's stuff in this movie that's like there's so much going on, but it all kind of makes sense, especially when you watch it the second time around. One thing that was a big deal for me was the message from his parents, and they make it a big deal in the movie. Obviously, it's kind of like the main focal point of the plot, right? Is the message from Krypton, because basically it turns the public loves Superman at first, and then this message basically makes him question him or makes them question him. One thing I wanted to say was that when he fights the kaiju, when the Justice Gang shows up, everybody lands in the park in Metropolis, and the little kids run up to Superman and hug him. I really fucking loved that. That was one of my favorite things in the movie. But then it's funny because it's like immediately followed up with this scene where it's like, oh, the Kryptonians are not that noble. So I wanted to hear what you guys thought of this change, because this actually is a major
This is
change.
a major change. I was waiting for them to reveal that it was doctored because they were so quick to say no, it's not. So
Right.
That is a major change. I don't believe that has ever been done before in any comic or any other
Right.
iteration. It was always about giving Clark a chance at life because their world was ending, and it was nothing. And now it's suddenly Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
So I'm still kind of weighing that around in my mind, and I don't know ultimately how I feel about it, but I appreciate the choice. I appreciate how they approached it. But it is like that's the big major thing that's different about this movie.
Yup. And Mike, I know you have a lot to say about this. I could tell even when I was first watching the fucking movie, I was like, oh boy, Mike Bongiorno is gonna have a lot to say about this.
Yeah. In My Adventures of Superman, they do this.
Okay.
Also, don't they do this in Man of Steel?
I don't.
It's like he has that codex inside of him that keeps all the Kryptonian DNA sequences. But I don't think Kal-El, or I'm sorry, Jor-El is like, you need to fuck a whole bunch of Earth women to make our species come back.
And I'm trying to remember. I think they flirt with it in Smallville, but then go back on it. I don't know. It just you guys might know more than me. I don't mind it, especially because it puts it makes him less of a god. It makes it more like Jor-El isn't God and he's Jesus, and it puts the emphasis on his Earth parents and how he defines himself. I could see it being a big difference, but I do think that they've been flirting with this idea and ideas like this for a little while.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big thing in My Adventures with Superman. It's like
I really got to go back and rewatch that because I think I watched 3 or 4 episodes and I trailed off for one reason or another, for other things maybe. But I got to go back and finish that because I always hear it's fantastic. I also want to add that I recently saw some Instagram reel that pointed out that Superman is more of a Moses allegory than Jesus, and I never really thought about it that way, but it is so true. So look that up if afterwards. I don't.
But I would also say that if you read the Bible, Jesus is just a reworking of the Moses story. It's just in the Bible. There's repetition of narratives, because none of it really happened.
Yes.
Oh, we're entering the discourse, the political discourse behind this movie, and I want to talk about that as well. But one thing I want to talk about though is that um, I think, like I said before, I feel like a lot of this movie is responding to Superman and other media, and I think that one major thing in the past 10 years has been the presence of like evil Supermen in the media. Homelander's the biggest example, right? From The Boys. Then you have Omni-Man from Invincible. And you said Dragon Ball Z, Brian, which I've heard people compare this to as well. But it's also like Invincible, right? Where essentially the Kryptonians are like Vultramites and they're like, okay, we'll take over this planet because you're going to be so powerful. Um, I kept thinking they were going to reveal that like Lex somehow fabricated the footage and changed it, but I like the idea that like maybe even what they're saying is not as harsh as the media is making it in the movie. Like, okay, so
Being
let's bring
ignorant.
in
Yeah, I understand. They're spinning it in a way.
right, right.
Like,
Yeah.
in universe.
Right. So let's talk about spinning in our universe, right? Because and I don't really want to waste a lot of time of our discussion talking about the media, but like everyone claims ownership of Superman, and he's so like American that you have like this right wing side where they're like, oh my God, this isn't Superman. He's so woke, and it's
Yeah.
because he's an immigrant and he's helping people, right? But like and then of course you have all the people that are like us, where are like, Jesus Christ, he is the immigrant. You know, he's from another fucking planet. Steve Shrives has that whole video, right, where he's like, that's what Superman is.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at this movie like Superman is just an immigrant from another country, his parents, like when we look at other cultures compared to our American culture, sometimes they might seem more harsh. They might seem like maybe they're like less giving to women. That's not the right way to say it, but like, you know, like women have certain roles in other cultures. And it just might be that the Kryptonian message they have, it seems harsh to us, but maybe they don't mean it like take over the world and be
Yeah, I
Omni
agree.
Man.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah,
They're being xenophobic towards humans. It's like it's like my Sicilian grandfather telling me like never tell anybody your salary, no matter who asks. You never do that. You know what I mean? Or
right.
just like weird shit like that. If you're having a problem in your family, you never tell anybody outside of your family about it. It's just shit like that. Like uh yeah, like they say like, rule over them and have a secret harem and stuff. But it's because clearly his parents, like Lex Luthor, um um don't value humans.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, right. And actually that brings up another point in the movie that's real interesting. I feel like not a lot of people die in this movie, even though there's like great potential for mass deaths, right? And in the Snyder version, there's a lot of people that die, or like implied that a lot of people die. Um, in this, there's a man who works at like a halal stand or like a newsstand or something like that, and he's like one of maybe two people that die in this movie. I think the president of that country,
Yeah.
Barovia, he dies,
Yeah.
and that guy dies, and I feel like it's really jarring when that guy dies.
Brutal. Yeah, it's brutal.
When Lex kills him, going along with your point, Mike, that you made that like Lex doesn't value humans, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think of the body count and how brutal this movie is versus other Superman movies? Is it as brutal? Is it not as brutal? What do you think?
They're not as callous about it, I guess. The deaths were pointed with purpose, I guess. Well, maybe the president was a little callous, I think, but it served that Lex was interrogating Superman and he wasn't giving what he wants and he was doing this awful thing there, and it was whereas to like if you compare it to Man of Steel, where there was just mass destruction because of the battle there, and you pointed out earlier that they really made a point to show the evacuation of the city. I think that really answers why that happened, and you don't because you just don't need that mass death and destruction. If you have to have a death, let it have a purpose, and I think that the movie did it right in that regard.
All right, amen. Mike, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing numbers, nothing beats Man of Steel. I mean, the amount of people dead and the amount of destruction to a major city would cause a global depression that would last for decades. Um, and
Right.
like Brian said, it's pointed. It's cruel in how flippant Lex is acting, but it's meant to be impactful to us, and what's his name? I forget the character's name. The character who begins crying.
Oh,
Um
Metamorpho.
Well,
yeah,
Metamorpho,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that's really his turning point too.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Well, that brings up, here's the broken record. Another thing that I kind of had a criticism about the first time around, but then I didn't care the second time around. When we get to that like black hole prison and Metamorpho, the first time around I was like, this is so fucking weird. I don't know how the public is going to take this, and this is like too much. That like Lex has made like a pocket universe, and there's all these weirdos in there. There's like, Brian, did you think that was a fucking white Martian that was like piloting that ferry that they were
Yeah, I
on?
was real curious about that because they did not explain that. I was thinking something like that, yes. But I'm surprised that I got such like all-star Grant Morrison vibes from that
Yeah,
version of Lex. So I'm really surprised
Yeah.
you didn't pick up on that like immediately or think that.
No, like the idea of there being like a pocket universe, it's weird though to me, and still doesn't necessarily work the second time around because he seems smart in this movie, but it seems like it's almost too much that he's created a pocket universe, right? Like it's like he doesn't seem that smart. He seems kind of more like a and this is going to sound bad, but like an Elon Musk. I don't think Elon Musk is smart. But like that's sort of like that kind of cruel businessman. Like because many scenes with Lex are just like him in that command center giving
yeah.
orders, right? But then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he also created a pocket universe. It almost feels like it's like too much. You know what I'm
So
saying?
It
the
Right.
version of Lex that I like the best is the one that is like a pinnacle of human uh, potential, but
Yeah.
he's just arrogant about it. And I do think while I think this Lex fits this Superman very well, I do prefer when he's a little more calm and collected. I
Yeah.
almost felt like it was like ADHD Lex here almost. But I
Right.
mean, it is paying homage to other versions of Lex too. But I didn't mind for a second that he created a pocket universe or had any of this. I think that generally they show the contrast between Superman being this like this public like perfection, perfect like model, and him wanting to be that, but him being human, and then just the argument between humanity and an alien, and who should be important and who should be whatever. I appreciate that. So I don't. I lost my train of thought. I'm gone.
No, it's
it's
okay. It's okay. Mike, did you want to follow that up with anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Silver Age weirdness, and I don't know. You said can the public get behind it? Maybe, maybe not. But who cares? I like that this movie is filled with weird shit. You brought up Steve Shrives before, who I think is a really good YouTuber who talks a lot about Superman. He said something about Superman. This movie understands Superman in that the characters about hope and stuff like that, but also the idea is stupid and the idea is crazy. And it's true. Like this movie's full of weird shit, and I think that's awesome. I don't know. I mean, think about like like you said, All Star. Like there's so much weird stuff in that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it was so Grant Morrison. It was so All Star Superman when he's like in some sort of like river in this pocket dimension. He's holding like
Yeah.
Metamorpho's baby.
Oh my god.
Metamorpho's just like a floating bit of tentacles near him, and they're going to
So
go into a black
weird.
hole. Yeah. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
this is like so over the top and crazy. But I mean, the audience was on board. It seemed like the audience really enjoyed this movie. Kind of going back to this discussion about Lex and Superman and stuff like that. I do also think that like James Gunn is quicker to like put politics into the movie than other Superman directors. There's more of a reverence for Superman, or more of a take on Superman, like in Zack Snyder's version. It's like his personal take on Superman. But I know that people think that like Lex is supposed to be almost like an Elon Musk type, and that there's like this insinuation that like he might be working with this guy who's like the stand-in for like Vladimir Putin. Man, we're gonna get so red flagged for all this discussion today. But like that one president of Arabia is like Putin, and that like when I see that conflict in that country, Tirana or whatever the fuck, and Barovia, it's like, okay, well, that's either Israel and Palestine, or that's
Yeah.
Ukraine and Russia, right?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that aspect of the movie?
Well, James Gunn has been a very noted critic of right wing politics for his entire career, so not surprised at all. I didn't think it was too over the top, honestly. Like it's clearly there, but it doesn't. You're not like drowning in the movie. I don't think.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have anything you want to add?
The one moment that to me, and I liked it, but it felt like this is him trying to hit a hot button thing, was the monkey bots, which
Oh,
was hilarious too. That Lex Luthor has these like intelligent cyborg monkeys that just online all day are like talking shit about Superman. Like to me, that was like, okay, that's political. And then also maybe this is subtle, but when Superman's gonna break out of his little cell, and all the people around him are like, "Oh no, don't do that! We're gonna get in trouble." And they start to tell on Superman. That made me think about like the bootlicker mentality of people who are loyal to their captors and their oppressors. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's so hard. Nothing isn't political. You're a
right,
fool, a child, if you think there's anything under the sun that isn't political.
right. Well, I mean, like Superman as a character himself is wish fulfillment. I think I said this to one of y'all in text, but like for the Siegel and Schuster who created Superman, it's said that they like made this like ideal guy that they wish they could be, right? And then Superman from that became this like wish fulfillment for like American culture, where it's like we wish we had this all powerful character who would save us whenever we needed, who could be this like beacon of hope. And this movie does capture that because the people that are like in power are like Lex, and corporations own superheroes and stuff like that
Yeah,
in this version of the movie. And then Superman is this guy that like Lex hates so much, and he inspires the public, and he's just doing what he wants to do for the sake of doing good. He's worried that people will die. That's why he
yeah,
interacts. One of my favorite things in the whole movie is that he's worried about how the kaiju is going to be taken care of. He's like,
yeah,
well, can we fly it off somewhere? Can we euthanize it in a humane way? And then the heroes in it, like Mr. Terrific and the Justice Gang, they're like, oh, let's just kill it right away. Like Mr. Terrific fucking sends like T-spheres into the thing's mouth and then just like blows up its heart
yeah,
or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I thought that was a little harsh. To be honest,
Yeah.
I always picture Mister Terrific as very much in that Boy Scout vein as Superman, and it wasn't exactly what I expected. I didn't mind the changes, but I was surprised by it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way the Justice Gang is portrayed in this, it's like they're very um like apathetic or whatever. It's like they've kind of seen it all, which I feel like this whole world has seen it all, and so they're just kind of like, oh, whatever. And like when they show up, Mr. Terrific says, "Go for its eyes," right? Like,
yeah,
uh, and it's a funny sequence too because there's one part where like I think it's Mr. Or no, Green Lantern like makes like this like jackhammer that just starts poking the thing in its eyeball, and it's not doing anything. And they cut to this woman on the ground who's just kind of like, oh,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's funny, but it's the idea that they're sort of like been there, done that, and they don't care. And Superman is like this other thing. And just to kind of go back, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but like um, when we're talking about Superman as wish fulfillment, he goes and he stops the fucking war because he's Superman. So it's like in our world, it's like Superman would fly down and stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. He'd go down and he would stop the Israel versus Palestine massacre. You know?
It's simplistic, but Superman, he was also always super woke. I mean, in the
Yeah.
first issue, he fights a boss who's you know exploiting his laborers. You know, he was called champion of the oppressed. So it's always been it's this idea that you're seeing now in right wing media of like, oh, it's super woke. It's like this is entirely always been exactly the same.
Agreed.
We're just making up bullshit.
Right, right. Well, so then why don't we talk about, and I know we're going over an hour. Are you guys cool with us still going though, even though
Yeah.
it's over an hour? Okay. Let's talk about things that are introduced in this that aren't necessarily in other live action Superman movies. So you have a character that's originally from Wildstorm Comics, which is a part of Image, but then Wildstorm got bought by DC. So you have the Engineer. She's one of the main villains in the movie. Um, Stuff that she does is like horrific. When I went to go see the movie with my daughter, and she's 9 years old, I was like, oh, this part might be a little too much with her. Where she's like sticking the fucking nanites into Superman's lungs, or she's like slaughtering the robots in the beginning of the movie. What did you guys think of the villains in general and her specifically?
Obviously, big fan of the Authority. I was a little worried coming into it that they would portray the character in a villainous manner, and I don't think it was too bad. Like I think I could see a turn here with that character particularly, and I could see the Authority being made here if they choose to still do it. I don't know if that's been shelved or not, but it made sense. Like Lex was the person behind her creation or the creation of her powers, and I think that's definitely something new. But I can see why that inspires that kind of loyalty that she has towards him, at the very least.
Right. And like with her, it's not like she like kills other humans like indiscriminately. She just basically takes out the Superman robots and she tries to kill Superman, who she considers an alien threat. But she doesn't hurt any other humans. And at one point, when Lex is like allowing that rift to destroy Metropolis, she's like, "You can't do that." Like she's fighting for the idea of like not using that rift. Um, but her design aesthetically and stuff, she's very similar to the way she is in the comic, except that like her face doesn't get completely covered. Like the way it is in the comics, she's completely covered. Like she's like Colossus or something. Mike, did you want to add anything about her, or you can talk about Ultraman too if you want?
Like you know what? I've never read anything with her in it, so I don't have any. I did think that she was gonna turn when he was like, "You don't have to be this way." I was like, "Oh, are they gonna turn her here?" So I can
Right.
see that potential. Um, no, no, I don't have anything else to add about that. There is one
Okay.
thing
Well,
that I talked about that I do want to talk about, but it's your show.
no. What's the thing? Bring it on.
The crypto of it all. Crypto.
Oh, yeah.
How did we not mention crypto at all?
I know crypto. There's this joke. Pete, I know you have kids, but there's this joke that millennials don't have kids. They treat their animals like kids, and I have to say I'm true. My dog is my daughter. I work. I always say to my dog, I work hard to give you a better life. Um, Crypto, and also let me say, and because people say this about Star Wars too, cuteness is not bad. Like the sensation of finding something cute is an entertainment, is a pleasure. The same way action is a pleasure. Same thing in comedy is a pleasure. So to be like, oh, there's cute stuff in it, it's like, well, who cares? That's one of the things that's enjoyable in life. The fact that he's in it so much and so essential to it, and I've seen it twice. I know you guys. The audience fucking loves it. I mean, they eat it up. Everything Crypto's cute. It's funny. He acts like a real dog acts. It's great. And some people were saying, well, he's Superman's dog. Why did they make it Supergirl's dog? It's like because then he could star in her movie too.
Well,
He
have
would be- yeah,
you read
would
the
be
comic
the-
that's based on? The Supergirl is going to be based on?
I think it's going to be based on what the tomorrow where she's like on the.
Woman of Tomorrow. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
he is a big part of that. So that's
There you go.
yeah.
Crypto's amazing.
Well, Well, Brian, I know that like for you, your dog has like been well, your previous dog and your current dog have been like such an important part of your life too. Like, how'd you feel about crypto? Oh, like
I missed my dog when I was watching the movie.
right,
I
right.
wish I could have brought him too with my rest of my family.
They should have an old dog screening. Dogs should be allowed to see
Yes.
this movie.
Yes, I agree.
No, obviously James Gunn, it's kind of like he figures out what works. He like tries something new and then he's like, "Oh, this works." And I think that like this is sort of a follow-up to Guardians of the Galaxy 3 where it's like that was so focused on animals and like get a message about animal cruelty.
He
I think
clearly
he
cares
adopts
about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
He,
The,
he,
the,
he, he,
the
like
worst thing the engineer does is like smother Crypto's face with the nanobites. That
Yeah.
in the audience it was like, whoa! Now we hate
right. Right. No, with crypto, it's funny because there are so many characters. There's so much going on in this movie. You kind of forget about certain aspects, and when we have that battle in Metropolis at the end, you kind of forget. Oh, there's like this Superman powered thing that could just come help, but you're not even thinking about it because all this other shit's going on.
right.
Then when he like whistles, you're like, oh, that's right. I remember seeing in the trailers that like they fight together at the end, right? Um, but it's this weird thing because it's like it's this ally to Superman that can help him out in these like tremendous battles, but then it's also just like your dog that you have at home. Like when he's on the control panel and Mr.
Yeah.
Terrific's ship, that reminded me of my dog that I have at
Yeah.
home, you know?
Oh, that was
And
adorable.
yeah,
You taking me
and
for
there's that
a lab?
dynamic.
The idea of his central purpose is fetching. You know, like that's one of the
Yeah.
most important things he does in the movie.
Right. Well, I mean, like one of my favorite things in the whole movie is when Superman realizes, hey, they got that footage from the Fortress of Solitude. Where did they get that footage? Then it cuts to him going to Lex's office, and he's like, "Where's the dog?" And he's just like flipping out about it. I fucking love that.
It's like
You know, he
John
throws
Wick.
that. Yeah. I mean, okay. So maybe we could kind of start to try to wrap it up. Why don't we just kind of talk about like our favorite moments, our highlights, the things that we want to see again when we go to see this movie again?
Truly, it's everything. But in addition, I did call it my favorite moment before, which was the speech about him putting one foot in front of the other, and it's just like everybody else. I also love the Pockhead scene, where the world is kind of turning on him. He's kind of questioning his purpose because of the revelation of the message, and his dad's just like, no, you took from that message what you wanted to take. That's why you're great. I love that, and that absolutely destroyed me on the inside.
Yep. I was kind of like shuddering with tears during that scene. There's actually a couple of times that made me kind of tear up both viewings, but more times in the second viewing. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
also would throw up there that what you just mentioned, the scene where um, he's so passionate about getting crypto back that he's just like, screw everything, I don't care, I'm going to go do this.
right. Yeah. Mike, what do you got more to add to this list?
I'd agree with Brian about that speech is really good. I I really love the quiet scene with Lois and Superman after the videos come out. That's a scene where he says like she says, you and me are so different. I was this punk rock kid and you think every person is beautiful. And he goes, "Well, maybe that's the most punk rock."
Yeah.
Like that was a great scene. I love when Superman and Lois kiss at the end. It's beautiful. It's hot. They have chemistry. They love each other. Yeah,
Yeah, they
I
like
love.
really make out too.
Yeah,
They're
they
like super into it.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they fuck.
um, I was gonna say that like there's actually quite a few moments I can say that like I kind of swell up and I get excited about. I mean, you guys have already mentioned some really key points which you're 100% on the money about, but let's talk about some Lex stuff too. I like the music. Like, okay, so the first two Superman movies have the John Williams score. Other movies incorporate the themes from the John Williams score. This movie, I feel like, doesn't have as strong a score, even though it uses the Superman theme every so often. I like this sort of this villainous song they play. Like, there's this part when Ultraman is the Hammer of Baravia, and he flies down to the beach, and then he walks through the portal, and it's playing this almost like James Bond
Yeah,
sounding
yeah,
villainous
yeah.
music. Or it's like I love that. James Gunn is a master of like doing these shots where you're like over someone's shoulder and they're walking into something that's like
Yeah.
wondrous. So that has that sequence. They do that again when the president from Barovia goes through the portal. I like that too. Um, goddamn, there was so many points I was going to make, but Lex. There's one part where like Superman starts to be suffocated by the engineer, and we see this in the trailer where Lex is watching and he has that smirk on his face, and then like his teeth start to show. I love that. I love when he's given the commands to beat Superman, and he's
Yeah.
like P1, P1, and like there's people in the control room like cheering and they're excited, and Ultraman's just punching Superman in the face. It's so brutal and mean, but it like you feel that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of talking about these sort of villainous moments, but I think that they should be brought up as well. Of course, that speech with Pa Kent is really important, and I was a blubbery mess when that was happening. I'm just trying to think. The Mr. Terrific beach scene, that's maybe like that might be my favorite part, but I love so much of it too. Is there anything else you guys that you wanted to point out that you thought was really great?
I really like Guy Gardner. I always love
Yeah.
everything. We haven't mentioned him once today, but I thought all the characters they added here had purpose, and they weren't just like I think Mike said this earlier. They weren't just like a stupid like cameo for like, hey, look at this Easter egg. Like they actually all had meaning in the movie, and I really appreciated that. I also appreciated that we're not instantly getting Batman and Flash and Wonder Woman, and we got some lesser known characters. I never in a million years expected to see Mr. Terrific in a movie, and I'm so happy that he is, and it works. You know,
Yeah.
like I love that we're seeing these characters that you wouldn't expect, and they just worked.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like a great example of that is Metamorpho's in there. Such a weird, obscure DC character, but he's there to make the kryptonite to hold Superman in the jail, and then he helps Superman break out. That also brings up, because there's a lot of like really great shots in this movie. There's some great shots when he's fighting the kaiju. There's great shots when he's like flying away from the fortress in the beginning of the movie, and we just show the S shield to start the movie. I love that they show this in the trailers too, when like Lex and the engineer and Ultraman walk into the fortress, and like Lex is just walking, and the robots are like being blown up around him.
Gary the robot.
Gary the robot, number 4. Yeah.
Alan
Tudyk.
What'd you say?
Gary the robot was Alan Tudyk.
Yes, he was.
Oh, of course. Got to get those 2 dicks in there. But like, I was gonna say that like, there's this one shot that's such a like throwaway shot as far as the narrative, where Metamorpho makes that sun in the Pocket universe, and it's like real bright in this one shot, and you have those guys that are part of they're called the Raptors, and they're like looking down. And I think it's such an awesome looking shot of this like this sun in this area that's looking down. And then also just another part I really like. I really like when fucking Krypto and Superman take on the Raptors and just demolish them.
Yeah. Good. Another really good shot that I like too was when the children in that other country that starts with the J are raising the flag. I absolutely love that. It was also kind of tied in with the Pa Kent scene, but I thought that was a very pointed image.
Oh yeah. They make the music swell at that point, and it's really great when fucking Green Lantern shows up. He's like, hey, sorry, Superman couldn't make it, but you got to upgrade. Like people love that,
Yeah. Can we talk for a second about like little Easter eggs? How did you guys react when you saw the Hall of Justice in an exact shot replica of how it looks in the Super Friends cartoon?
I was surprised that it's there already. It was fantastic. I'm glad they're laying that foundation. I'm glad that it's it's not the big 6 or 7 that are normally in the Justice League.
Yeah.
I loved it that they're showing the beginnings of it, that we're thrown in, not in the beginning, sort of the early time earlier part of the timeline, but not the very beginning. So I was happy. I love seeing the Big Belly Burger billboards, all the various companies. Like you saw Stag Industries, you saw Lord Tech. I for a while thought that there was a Wayne Tech thing, but I think that was actually Lord Tech building. I think that was the building where the guy was eating the cereal you mentioned before. But yeah, it just there were so many Easter eggs there, and we talked about a lot of the ones from, like you mentioned, Otis, Miss Tessmacher, just the characters being there. It's all coming from different continuities.
Peacemaker.
What?
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
Oh.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. The audience laughed pretty hard when Peacemaker. Probably because they're like, "Oh, that's John Cena," but then the people that know this universe are like, "Oh shit, Peacemaker!" Yeah, it's funny. One thing I noticed the second time around is that there's a painting that's like being done in the Hall of Justice, and it's 4 characters from the Justice Gang, and I recognize, Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern, but then I can't tell who the 4th person is, and I was like, is that Booster Gold? Is it Maxwell Lord?
I read something about there was a painting of Wildcat, so maybe that's what it was.
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't remember seeing it myself.
Yeah. And see, like, there's so much potential for where they could go with this, right? Because with the Justice Gang, they definitely have like a Justice League International kind of vibe. And they could kind of spin that off and have that team. But then with like Hawkgirl and Mr. Terrific, you could kind of go into a Justice Society. I mean, you just said Wildcat. That's a Justice Society person. So, like, I think one thing I want to make before we kind of wrap this up is that, like, it's like what Brian said. It's not just like cameos just to be like, oh, look, there's a Batarang, or like, oh, Green Arrow shot Arrow. Like it's not that kind of fucking movie. It's chock full of references, but like everything, like Mike said, serves a purpose. Everything works,
Well,
and that's such a refreshing change from the way most comic book movies are these days.
Well, James Gunn said something in an interview a while ago where he said the main difference between the MCU and the DCU is that the MCU tried to make it one big story, whereas he said we want a big shared world, but each story is its own story. And I think that is the much smarter way to go about it.
Like actual comic books. Like they're all existing in the same world, but they essentially all have their own siloed narratives in a way.
Yeah.
Right, Brian, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, like, comics, they are working towards like a big event, like an Infinity War or whatever, but that's like a background thing that the people that are working on that event are focused on, and the storytellers in the individual books can worry about their own stories. And that is the way these movies should be too, that like you're just focusing on the movie versus like, how does this movie set up this movie? Like fuck that. Yes, like let the person well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say I hate that shit. I hate it.
Yeah. And it, it kind of worked up until, I mean, truly Endgame, but like Avengers is where it like really hit the sweet spot. But I feel like it's just gone way over the deep end.
It's gone way overblown. That everything is. I mean, they definitely have their narrative paths there. It's not all exactly connected in the MCU, but it's got overblown. That's where the fatigue comes in with most people that aren't watching the shows, aren't seeing the more recent movies. And I think that this movie is a breath of fresh air in the sense that it's there. There's not any tease. I guess the tease of the sequel is Supergirl, but that story is going to be completely disconnected from this, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, right. And that's what James Gunn is telling us to expect. There's a bunch of stories about these characters that have their own purpose and are not necessarily coming up to Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right. Thank God, Jesus. All right. Well, I actually have to go to my job pretty soon. I gotta get ready for it. But was there anything else you guys wanted to bring up? I know there's so much in this movie we could talk for another like hour easily. But any other things you got to make sure we talk about or bring up?
I feel like I said my piece here, but talking about this again, like I really think I got to go see it again today.
Nice. Mike?
No. Well, I did say we were talking, and I did mention in a very polite way the actress who plays Cat Grant is rather attractive, and
Yeah.
that's a good highlight of the film. And does a good performance on top of being very attractive.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think one of the parts that got the biggest laugh. What the hell's that guy from SNL who's he's
Oh,
like Lombard in this
Yeah,
movie?
yeah.
Brett something.
Yeah.
Wait. I have his Beck Bennett, which is like a
Oh, Beck
superhero
Bennett.
name unto itself,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Yeah,
Lombard.
like it.
Yeah. And what's funny because like when Hawkgirl picks up that president and drops him, it like cuts to like him dropping like Alka-Seltzer into a
Yeah,
glass.
yeah.
People love that,
Was
Yeah,
and
like,
he's
that's
like, why don't I have a seatbelt?
right. That's the other part where people laughed really hard. No, I think they did a good job with the Daily Planet staff. There's like one African American character in there. I think he's like Coop or whatever. He kind of is like almost like a non-character, but like every otherwise Perry White, Cat Grant, the rest of them kind of have their own little moments too. Um, no, I just liked it way better the second time around, and I've enjoyed talking about it with y'all. Mike, do you want to give a little plug for your channel?
Sure, Pop Culture Man Children, PCMC, is a podcast. We just hit 400 episodes. So we come out every Wednesday. We talk about things like this, but we talk about a lot of horror movies. We talk about video games sometimes. We talk about TV, all sort of pop culture ephemera. And
Yes.
Pete's been on the show plenty of times. He'll be on soon too to talk about
Yeah.
RoboCop.
RoboCop, and then I think we're gonna do Dark City at one
Dark
point too,
City,
right?
yes.
Yes,
Mike,
yes.
did you play
Yeah,
the
and Mike and
RoboCop
I
game?
have talked about the first two Superman movies too. Wait, what'd you say, Brian?
Mike, did you play the RoboCop game?
No, I never have.
It's not bad. It really like it surprisingly is very faithful to how I expect RoboCop would be. Like it's
Wow.
more than just shooting things. It was pretty decent.
I want to play it.
It's very cheap. You could probably get it like $20 on sale.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Well, what do you call it? Brian and I are going to continue to review comics. Let us know what you guys thought of Superman. Obviously it's a very exciting time to be a Superman fan. But yeah, Brian and I think we're going to cover Sandman, which has dropped on Netflix. We can talk about that soon. We may or may not cover Revival. We'll see how that goes. But of course, we got Fantastic Four coming out real soon as well.
Man,
So, guys,
that movie's got some stiff competition now.
yeah, no fucking kidding. Yeah. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I had a really great time, and we will talk to you guys next time.